A massive cocaine bust in the waters near Vieques resulted in 40 bales of cocaine valued around $26.4 million being confiscated. On Wednesday, air and marine agents spotted a Yola-type vessel with 2 engines and 2 people on board, traveling northwest towards Vieques. Now officials made contact with that vessel, which had, again, 2 people on board, both claiming to be U.S. citizens. Now inside the vessel is where officials located over 3,600 pounds of cocaine. The Drug Enforcement Administration and the Federal Bureau of Investigations took custody of the individuals and the contraband for prosecution. While continuing our coverage in Puerto Rico today, a young woman has learned a powerful skill, repairing power plants to help others. At a time when much of the island of Puerto Rico was without power, this girl learned from her father and put herself at the service of others to repair generators. Our Francis Felix shares her story.
At times when daily power outages are in order, an ingenious 26-year-old woman helps a local community by repairing power plants for the neighbors. Yeshlimar Morales is a talented young girl that repairs and gives maintenance to generators in the backyard of her home in San Lorenzo, Puerto Rico. She learned what she knows about generators with her father Jorge, that taught her some lessons at the beginning of this year.
I learned how to repair generators at the beginning of the year when there was an electricity outage. I asked my dad to show me, and he showed me how to repair them.
After Hurricane Fiona, a great part of locals around the island were without power. People were in need of generators to cover their necessities. She explained the desperation and urge of families for their generator to be repaired.
People were desperate. Some people have needs for their kids. Older people needed sleeping machines, and a lot of people had other different needs that needed a generator. And the people after Fiona, and the people is thankful and happy.
During these times of many power outages, being able to help the community fulfill her.
It is very important for me. It's being a privilege and an honor.
When people reach her to repair their generators, they are surprised for her being young, doing this type of job. But she doesn't feel any type of discrimination.
People have been surprised to see a woman repairing generators, but they have trusted my work.
Yeshlimar wants to encourage other women in being able to do basic reparations.
Is to put God first in all of your plans, and He will help you reach all of your dreams.
Give workshops to women and expanding her business are part of this talented Boricua long-term goals. Reporting from San Juan, Puerto Rico, Francis Felix.
All right, thanks so much, Francis. In the meantime, Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley has called for a unified system of civil penalties across the Caribbean so that all breaches of the law are not punished by fines or imprisonment. Now, she said on Thursday that while the idea of fine and confine is in the colonial laws that regional countries have inherited, it is time for change. Mottley, her work there is ongoing, and that route that has started in her country.
We in Barbados are trying to move away from that and to introduce a system of civil penalties that will allow civil penalties to be used for regulatory breaches. And as I've said to the Cabinet recently, we need to introduce penalties that also allow those who dare to breach the social capital of a nation must be prepared to repair the social capital. And therefore the penalties which are imposed on them ought to relate to those things which are necessary to repair that social capital. And what do I mean? If you are prepared to litter, if you are prepared to curse, if you are prepared to do things that bring down the social capital, well then that has put you to do the community service in areas that will repair the social capital.
Now, Prime Minister Mottley insisted that there must be a separation of punishment for regulatory breaches and substantial crime.
You commit rape, you commit murder, you commit burglary, you commit any of those genuine criminal offenses, criminal sanctions, criminal punishment. But when we start to deal with regulatory breaches, then I really do believe that we need a unified system of civil penalties across the region. It is important to move from the Victorian approach to law, and also let us begin to understand, and we can learn from indigenous tribes and indigenous people across the world, that what matters is how we repair the damage that is done. We as nation states are talking about reparatory justice for what has been done to our own and our people for centuries. We cannot now be the ones seeking to have only an adversarial system of justice which only serves to divide rather than to retain and repair the whole.
All right, well, now to some health news today. Warnings about a potential winter surge in COVID-19 cases have done very little to encourage more Americans to roll up their sleeves and get the updated booster shot. Now, data shows interest in getting an additional shot that's declining. Well, today, our One Caribbean News' Emily Matson has a look at the numbers and why they're fueling concerns for the fall and winter months.
3 viruses spreading at the same time in the U.S. flu, RSV, and COVID-19.
The good news here is that we're not powerless against this. For 2 of them, we have very high-quality vaccines.
But as of last week, the Biden administration said only about 20 million people, less than 10% of the population ages 5 and up, had gotten the updated booster dose, which protects against the original coronavirus strain, as well as the Omicron subvariants BA4 and BA5. The numbers show declining booster interest even in U.S. seniors who are more likely to have been vaccinated against COVID-19 than any other age group.
The first and most important thing people can do is go out and get vaccinated, because that will keep people, kids, adults, everybody out of the hospital at very high rates.
2 early studies suggest the updated booster shots work about as well against BA4 and BA5 as the original boosters they replaced, suggesting our bodies have been well trained to fight the original virus, and the additional shots mostly reinforce that response.
The new vaccines keep up. I suspect that there may be another vaccine next fall, but we're getting into a tempo where for a majority of people, it's going to be a once-a-year updated vaccine.
But concern is rising about a potential surge in COVID cases this winter if people don't heed warnings to get their updated booster shots. Emily Matson reporting.